Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Investor.
Welcome to another episode of Find Your Freedom. We're super excited today. We have this really special guest, really inspiring. So we have, Jabbar, who's a member of the military, who's been able to be very creative in the way he's been able to kind of grow his portfolio. So he went from house hacking, short-term rentals, and kind of building up his portfolio and his cash flow. And I know he's talked about trying to find financial freedom by age 30, and I've had a certain number of cash flow, and he's been able to achieve it at a much faster rate. So without further ado, Jabbar, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. That was quite the introduction.
Yeah. So, it's, we're super excited. I think when I was 18 years old, I think my mom was still probably wiping my butt. I wasn't very independent. And for you to be somebody that's really done something at such a young age, I think that is such an accomplishment. And I just love for you to kind of maybe just share a really basic background about yourself and so the viewers can kind of get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jabbar. I'm a 21-year-old United States Marine and real estate investor. I own 10 units. I have 3 more under contract. And I'm just hustling $3 million worth of real estate, financially free Marine. And I just love this business, man. It's great.
Listen, we love that, right? First and foremost, let's just say, hey, man, salute you, appreciate you for being in the military and protecting us. That should never go without being said. So 100% appreciate that. But listen here, man, we got a 21-year-old with 10 doors, 3 under contract, rocking and rolling, smiling, living life, feeling great, feeling awesome. So, man, tell us, you're young, dude. You know what I mean? And like Omid just said, when we were young, we were totally not into real estate, right? What was that thing, right? And start where you want to start, but how did you get here? Where did this start from?
Oh man, dude, I think it was a combination of so many things that just happened in my life. I mentioned this on a lot of other podcasts, but I just had everyone else, a really crappy childhood where I was abused. And then I moved in with my dad and I was really big into basketball. And one day my dad pops my basketballs. He hands me Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which was an assignment I was supposed to do for my pastor at church. And then I read the book, loved the book, but I was 15 at the time, so I couldn't do anything with it. Fast forward, I go to join the military and I'm in training. And there was this guy, we couldn't go home for Thanksgiving because we were in training. We were in combat training. And there's this guy named Phil. And I always reference Phil because he was personal finance, financial independence personified. This guy, I mean, if you saw how happy these people were, they didn't have a worry in the world. These people were the ideal life that I wanted to live. And so when I kind of saw how Phil was living and he told me he had invested and he gave me a few books to read, I just knew that this was going to be for me. I was going to essentially be financially free. I was going to be rich. I was going to have all these different things that sound so unrealistic when you're starting. But once you start putting the pieces together of the puzzle, you realize that they're not that far away from you. So that's kind of how it just came from, just combinations of different events in my life that led to me being on this path.
Okay, so I really want to dig into this a little bit because you're in the military and I feel like there's a process around how you get started. And I from doing my research, I saw that you listen to every Bigger Pockets podcast from and I don't know how many hours that takes. That must have been I don't even know. But walk me through that process because I think a lot of people see the success, but they don't really see what kind of goes behind the success. So walk me through the process as far as how you decided to kind of make those moves and commitment and what you had to sacrifice in order to do this sort of things.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I'm not going to lie. I sacrificed a lot. I sacrificed like hanging out. I sacrificed watching regular television. I just completely brainwashed myself and really kind of obsessed. I became obsessed with like to learn like financial independence, but then real estate. So like you mentioned, I was listening to every single episode. I went to episode 1 of the Bigger Pockets OG show. I think they were at episode like 400 or something at the time. And I went back to episode 1, got all the way to 400. I still listen to it now. I'm really behind right now just because I'm so busy. But I probably listened to over, I would say 1,000 episodes between Bigger Pockets, the OG show, the Rookie show, the Money show, the Business show. You know, that's thousands of hours of just real estate education right there. And I didn't stop there. I was also reading the books that Bigger Pockets would publish about the topics that I was interested in. So the book on managing rental properties by Brandon Turner, the book on rental properties investing by Brandon Turner, Burr by David Green, you know, all the sales, how to win friends and influence people. Like if you look on my Instagram, my profile picture is me smiling and there's a big stack of books in the background. Like that was my life. And then I took it even further, whereas I started brainwashing myself with what I consume. So on social media, instead of having like a regular social media, I made a new account and I followed all real estate people, all people in business. Like this stuff was just now coming into me to the point where like it was almost like breathing to me was consuming this stuff. And I didn't just stop there as well. I reached out. I took it, you know, I'm taking these to levels of reaching out to people who are actually doing it. So all those combinations of things gave me the confidence to say I'm capable and competent enough to begin my journey as a real estate investor because I put in the reps of education. And so by doing all those things combined, when I started on my journey of like, okay, what am I going to start with? What area? How do I talk to realtor? How do I find all these people? I didn't really need to go and ask someone a question on how to do all those things. I already knew it because I did so much education. I heard all the steps over and over and over again. It was beaten into me. I would say the way I went, I am grateful for it now, but a more efficient path would have been to just set a deadline, obsess over it for maybe a month or 2, and then just find a mentor or something who I could just ask questions to along my way on the journey. Because I do that for other people. I have a friend who he's on his 3rd property now, and I told him about real estate, and within a month he had his 1st property. And then 6 months later, he had his 2nd. And now another 6, you know? And so I'm like, man, I wish I would have just done his path, like what I'm doing to him, because it just would have gotten me to where I'm at faster. But I'm grateful for it because I'm competent. I'm confident in my competence from all the reps and education that I put in.
Hey, listen, boom, 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 right? You drop so many booms in there. Like, I don't even know where to start. Listen, all right, first and foremost, I hear you say, hey, the first thing I did was I wanted to make sure that I call it ingredients, right? Feed yourself with where you trying to go. So you cut off any and everything that had nothing to do when it came to real estate. So you sat here, you consume podcasts, right? You sat here, that was all real estate related. You sat here, you consume books that was all real estate related. Then your time, your free time, you put yourself in rooms with other individuals that had some type of hand in real estate, right? And that's the journey, and you said you were so prepared to sit there and say, I don't have to ask another question to anybody. I can sit here and go out, ask the questions, close the deal, and get the property. And I think that's amazing. And you talk about, hey, you wish you would have done it a little different. I think it got done the way it was supposed to get done for you and your journey. So you can show people like your friends, and other folks like you're mentioning right now on how they can sit here and not have to take as much time as you did. And I think that's the beauty. But listen, so you're in the military, right? And there's so much value that the military, provides that a lot of individuals just don't know about. I have a brother-in-law who was in the military, and he's over 60 years old, and he's just taking advantage of the VA loan, right? So I guess if you could let us know, from a military perspective, what did you take advantage of to sit here and help you, one, upstart, and then two, continue to purchase?
So I think one big thing that no one talks about is even though I didn't make a lot, like I think my first year I made about $18,000. That was my take home income. I was able to save more than that because I was side hustling, but I was saving like 90%, like egregious amounts of my income. Like not many career fields offer that to where your housing's taken care of, your clothing's taken care of, your food's taken care of, your health insurance is taken care of. So we have this massive advantage. All the other expenses in your life are just things that you're adding on to them when you're in the military. Because everything else, if you really boil down and think to it, they provide for you everything you need. So that was one thing I took advantage of. And I know this is something that's like unsexy, is like save money, because no one wants to do it. Everyone wants to go and make more money. Everyone's like, oh, if only I could make more money. But really, like, that foundation came from me being extremely frugal. Like there was times where I literally spent $50 in a month, multiple months, So that's one thing I like to share because no one likes to hear it, but it's the truth. I saved an egregious amount of money because I was in an advantaged position to do that. Another thing that I took advantage of was my VA loan. So a lot of people know about their VA loan, but there's so many misconceptions about it. You can use your VA loan. No, I won't speak on it too specifically. I'll just share from my point of view because I don't want to get in trouble. But I leveraged my VA loan to buy my first property. And then I bought I don't know what property that was, but I bought another property with my VA loan as well. And that first property, I would not have qualified for it if it wasn't for my VA loan, because the VA loan actually is less strict. You could have a 70% debt to income ratio and still qualify for a loan. Like that's not normal. Like FHA, you can't do that. Conventional, you can't do that. A lot of these other loan products, if you don't meet that 43%, 50%, 57% DTI test, you're done. Like you need to figure something else out. Whereas with the VA loan, they have different ways of qualifying people for loans if you have an experienced loan officer who's done it before when he really wants to make that commission. So I had that going for me. And so what I did essentially was I had this situation where because I didn't have the 2 years of W-2s, I didn't have the income, I only had 6 months of credit history, I just was able to put 5% down, which I saved and side hustled, which was about $15,000 plus furniture and closing costs. I was all into that deal, $22,000. And I lived in the futon and rented out all the other rooms in that house. And so that property today cash flows over $2,000 a month, which is, like you heard me say before, I made $18,000 when I first got started. That property makes more than I made, you know what I'm saying? I think right now it almost makes as much as I do now, like from the military. So and people are like, well, why would you live on the futon? Right? Why don't you get a bedroom from yourself? Well, I'm already not comfortable being in the military. I have a roommate, and if the other alternative is a roommate where I smell his stinky breath when I wake up in the morning. So it wasn't a change in lifestyle for me, to just live on the futon and at least now I'm getting paid, to be a little bit more uncomfortable. So that is all the advantages that I get from being in the military that I was able to take advantage of. A lot of people get in the military and they instantly start trying to inflate their lifestyle. And I just refused to do that because I knew that it was going to pay off by just being able to take a step back and say, how can I maximize, the ingredients, the pots and the pans that I have?
So this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing like you listen to tons of podcasts. Then you have this tool belt of like all these like ideas and ways that you can kind of make it work for you. So I think there's always this misconception that you have to have tons of money to get into real estate, or that it's hard to qualify for loans. So like somebody, let's say in that age group, like what would you say to them as far as what are some creative ways in order to like do some deals? Because I think when I hear your journey and how you've even transitioned between like house hacking into like a short-term rental into like other properties, maybe you can share like an example of where you can help other listeners find like alternative ways and like the traditional way of thinking.
Yeah. So I actually think the traditional way, I don't want to say it's the worst way, but it's just like, it has so many barriers and red tape. I actually try like, and that's why it's important to have education, because when you start playing in these areas where you're using other people's money or you're partnering with people, or even when you're doing creative finance, and I've done all of these things like sub 2, you get into an area where you have to educate others on why they should involve themselves in that journey with you. So another way that people my age can get into this game is you can partner with someone. And so like some people, they want to be like, they don't want to use their parents, but some of people have rich parents or wealthier parents or even middle-class parents who have the capital, or family members who have the capital. I didn't have that. So, but you can be in communities and groups. And if you present yourself as someone who's knowledgeable and trustworthy, all you need to do is be competent enough to execute the business plan and find opportunities for people who have more money than time to invest into. So that's another thing I've done. So I've bought in 3 or 4 properties by basically having someone else, they bring the money and I just bring the expertise. I find the deal, I manage the deal, I put the deal together, I secure the financing terms, I do all the work, but I don't bring any money to the table. So because I have the competence to execute the property and execute what I put on that pro forma to present to these investors, they are able to basically trust in this 19, 20, 21-year-old kid to basically put hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line to secure an investment property. And so for me now, since I have more of a track record, this becomes easier because now it's not me pitching myself. It's just pitching my history. But at the very beginning, it was literally just the education from, knowing what I'm talking about, being able to handle all these different objections because I did so much research. So it's just like being knowledgeable yourself, and then you can partner. Another option that I didn't talk about, sub 2 or owner finance or creative finance. There are people who are in pre-foreclosure, people who can't afford to pay their mortgages. In the military, actually, I didn't even think about this because this is what I did. There are people in the military who have no equity right now, and they have to move from their property, the property that they just bought, to another area last minute, and it's stressing them out because they don't want to rent it. They don't know how. It's stressing them. They might not want to sell it because they don't have enough equity. They don't want to come to the closing table with money. So what do? You can come to them with a solution and say, hey, I can take over your mortgage, and instead of you losing money by selling this or having to deal with renters, I can do all this for you. We can sell this deal sub 2, meaning you basically, this loan remains in your name, and the deed, the title, switches to my name. I own it. I control the asset. And now I'm able to rent it out, receive rental income, deal with all that. And then maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, you'll get a big fat check as opposed to you maybe losing money or being in a bad situation, whatever, what have you. But all this stuff stems from having the education. Because I realized when I talk to people, when I help them get into this, no one wants to do the work. No one wants to do the education, but this is the way to make money. Like it just blows my mind. This is the way to do it, is get knowledgeable so you're able to see the opportunities and execute on them.
Oh, Jabbar, listen, I love this, man. I could talk to you forever. Listen, there's so many things you dropped here that we're going to have to unpack just a little bit, right? One, you mentioned, I'm here looking at my notes because I was just taking notes. I'm over here taking notes, dude. You know what I mean? I'm a seasoned investor over here taking notes, right? And you mentioned just being in the military, right? And one of the values there is that you could take advantage of the VA loan. You said you can have a 70% DTI. That's unheard. I almost fell out the chair, dude. Just to let you know. And this is just to open up the minds of other individuals who served in the military, right? And that's all branches, I might add. You also mentioned about house hacking. You said, hey, listen, my situation here in the military is X. So me moving here is honestly, it's X as well. The difference is I'm just going to make a whole lot of money by doing it, and then on top of that, you talked about partnership. I know Omid, he has some partnerships. I personally have some partnerships, and everybody's story seems to sound the same. It's like, hey, go out here, prove yourself, right? I went out, I purchased some long-term rentals, and then, my partner is my cousin, he said, oh man, can we link up and buy some properties? And that's what we wound up doing. We wound up buying some, short-term rentals, but there's all these other different ways and different, finance ways that you just mentioned, which is great. So I'm so grateful that you did, so now, listen, you're here. You're big man on campus, man. I'm pretty sure everybody, is running to you, right now. Is saying, hey, how can I do it, right? Like, what are you doing about that? I know that you're still in the military, which is great, still serving. Obviously, you have these properties. Are you self-managing these properties? You have them on property management. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I self-manage my properties, and this is something I struggle with a lot. I'm not even gonna lie. I essentially have built myself almost like a job, right? Because I have all these properties I have to manage, and this is the things people don't talk about. Is you have contractors to manage. You have stuff that goes wrong. There's so many people involved in real estate transactions, even in the stabilization of an asset, that just things inevitably go wrong because someone doesn't care, someone quits on you, someone's sick, and now you have to pivot. So I have all these fires I'm constantly putting out, and then I'm trying to hire people on top of that. And I'm just not good at hiring people. So I'm having to fire people, hire people, fire people. You suck, and I'm learning to be a better leader. And it's something I'm really struggling with. And I mean, I have a coach, Omid, Julie George, she's been helping me out with that.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's tough. I would say some days I think to myself, man, if I had a wife, this would be so easy because she would do all the stuff that I don't want to do. But then I'm like, you can't get married for that. So, so I'm just trying to hire people. So if anyone knows any VAs, any good VA companies, hit me up.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I feel like it's a process, right? It's part of the process. It's never going to be perfect, but I think it's the consistency of just trying to figure it out. And so even for us, when we were first in, I mean, we got really lucky in the Smokies. We've had this very same cleaner that we've had, and I know typically people go through a lot of turnover with cleaners, for example, on short-term rentals. But in Joshua Tree, it took us quite a few. We went through quite a few before we found the cleaner that we've been using now. But it's just part of the process. And there's sometimes it's just timing. It's just having the right person at the right time, and your stars align. So I'm sure that'll come at some point. But yeah, that's cool. So I guess question I have also for you is, I kind of want to go back to the creative financing, because I think that has become a very sexy topic, the sub 2. And this year with interest rates, limited inventory, and the sub 2 rates kind of make the cash flow a lot better. Maybe just walk through an example of one that you've done. And so that way the listeners can kind of understand what the process looks like. Because I know you shared kind of that in a high level overview, just so that they can kind of learn from you, just kind of in this environment that just seems to be a popular topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will point out, right, another thing that helps with me being able to jump into different strategies to purchase a property is going back to just connecting with people. So I have people in my back corner who do all sorts of different things. So whenever I want to get into something, I'm just like, hey man, how's it going? You looking great, how's the wife and kids? So here's what I got going on, Yeah. And I don't mean to do that. It just ends up happening that way. So I had a property in Beaufort, South Carolina, and Beaufort is actually where I work primarily. And there's this guy who got removed from the military for being out of height and weight standards. And so I knew that. So every, I would say, month, or every couple of weeks, I'd hit him up. Hey, man, when you're trying to sell your houses, let me know. I just keep on hitting him up. And eventually one day he said he wanted to sell while I was in Norway for training. And so he told me he wanted to sell while I was out there, and he gave me some ridiculous price. And so I was like, that sounds like motivation to me. So I talked to him, negotiated him down to something a little bit more realistic. And then I told my friend, man, like with these new interest rates, this just doesn't make sense. Like I can't make sense of this deal. So my friend, he had talked to me about sub 2, which is something him and his mentor, I mean, they've done like probably hundreds of them at this point. And so essentially he gave me the way to relay it to the seller in a way where it'd be a win-win. He got removed from the military, right? So that means he's lost his income. He also had a baby on the way. So now his expenses are going up. He had I didn't know this, but when talking with him, I found out he had a non-paying tenant and a really poorly ran Airbnb on the other side. So he's now losing money from his property. It's a big headache for him. So, and then if he would have sold it, because the house had a few issues, had a foundation issue that I'll take care of eventually. It's safe now, but it's not, you can't sell a property, with those type of issues. People are going to request them to be sold or their price drops. So he would have lost money selling it. So that's ding, 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 perfect opportunity for this type of transaction of sub 2. There's obviously distress, and instead of him, and then also he was delinquent on a payment. So I had to catch him up one payment. So all those things enabled this opportunity to work perfectly to where I'm taking his issues and making them go bye-bye. So essentially what I did was I structured the deal. I saw his mortgage. He had a 2.6% interest rate. And I think interest rates at the time were in the 6s or 7s. Yeah. And so $1,250 mortgage payment. I knew long-term rentals in that area. By just cleaning the property up a little bit, I could get $1,800 and $1,500. So that's all already a great deal. But I'm like, I'm pretty greedy. So I was like, let's see what Airbnb can do. And so I essentially, and sorry, I don't want to get too deep into numbers before I explain. So I bought the property sub 2, and essentially, guys, people asked me the paperwork, the process. I found a lawyer who was experienced with sub 2. I went on Pace Morby's group, Creative Finance, and I just looked around to see in the search bar, lawyer who does sub 2 in South Carolina, found a lawyer, called a bunch of them up, found a guy that seemed really capable and competent, and he handled all the paperwork. He handled the entire transaction. He did all the disclosures to the sellers. He educated me on what I needed to do, such as changing the insurance to adding my name onto the insurance or my LLC's name onto insurance and the seller's name as additionally insured and all those things. So that whole logistics, that was just by me finding that rock star from Creative Finance, the Pace Morby's group. So essentially, I basically bought the property, no money down, no down payment, nothing, just took over his mortgage. And then in 10 years, I'll pay him $70,000. So I can do that by selling the property or refinancing the property, or I could just, wire him $70,000 because I'll probably have it pretty easily at that point is the assumption, right? So essentially the numbers break down to where I have a $1,250 mortgage. One Airbnb does around $2,500 to $3,200 a month. So the other Airbnb, it doesn't really matter. Like I don't have much history on it. That's why it's hard to break down straight numbers. But it's a fantastic deal, and that's just an opportunity where I saw the problem and I solved it, and then it led to me adding more cash flow to my portfolio, and that required I paid closing costs, which was $4,000, furniture, which is maybe another $15,000, and I raised all that money as well. And you could get that money from business credit if you don't have it. So just breaking down like the true logistics of it, and so it works out to where it's like a 200% cash on cash return or something crazy because I have so little money invested into the deal.
No, that's amazing, and that's the power of real estate, right? One of the things I mentioned, Omid and I was talking about, I said, real estate is like a restaurant, and it's a la carte. Is whatever you like to do. You want to go traditional, you want to go Airbnb, you want to go sub 2, you want to go Burr, you want to go any way that you want to go. Real estate got something for you, and it's just super impressive to hear you at the age that you are. And we're hoping that we get so many people to listen to this, that's your age, where, you can, one, show them the way, two, they can get inspired, by your story, and one of the things I do want to mention is that the key that you put in there with that last deal that you talked about was follow up. And how, important that follow-up was for you to sit there and not just add to your portfolio, but get an amazing deal, to your portfolio. But I just want to switch this up a little bit because we do want to talk to more individuals that's your age. Like, what is something that you would tell another, 18-year-old or 19-year-old, to sit here and start to do to enter into this real estate world so they can, see financial freedom sooner rather than later?
Okay. I would say, and this is just my opinion, so please just take it how you will. But I think that the opportunity cost, it doesn't have to be real estate, it could be business, but in some way, shape, or form, I think it's going to be more of a better investment to obsess over this than maybe over a formal education. This is just my opinion. So I would say like how I was obsessing, I had to choose. Like I'm Nigerian. I make this joke all the time. It's lawyer, doctor, engineer, or disappointment. And I chose disappointment. And I'm very happy with my choice. And I had the choice between going to school because the military would pay me to go to school or obsessing over real estate. I chose to obsess over real estate. So I think just do the work, man. Just study up, read the bit. Like I'm wearing the shirt, listen to Bigger Pockets. If you listen to all the episodes, read all their books, you'll be a millionaire at some point. If you act on it, it's pretty hard not to be. So it's like the hard way of going about it. You could pay for mentorships to learn it, but I would say get the education because most of the time the reality is you don't have the money. So you don't have the money. You need three things to invest in real estate. You need time, knowledge / experience, or capital. And since you don't have the knowledge or experience and you don't have the capital, then you got to get knowledgeable if you want to do some deals. So if you want to do some deals, become knowledgeable, obsess over the education to a point where you feel competent, and then find someone else who has a bunch of money but not any time and experience, and then you guys band together and do a deal together. It's really that simple. And I said simple, not easy, because you guys all know it's not easy, but it's very simple.
So, I love everything that you said, and I love your story. And we talk about this, like house hacking, then transitioning, like studying, house hacking, creative finance, like you using all these different strategies. And it also says how you can pivot. Like you don't necessarily have to stick to one thing. And so how you can just kind of get your feet wet and then build relationships and create these resources. Because what I'm also hearing is you're super resourceful and being able to find information and be able to act on it and be a problem solver. So I guess as we transition, what does find your freedom mean to you?
Find your freedom. That's such a good question. And I've thought about it for 20 seconds. I would say finding your freedom is finding whatever that thing is that's going to allow you, and when I say whatever that thing is, whether it's a business or endeavor, financial freedom, whatever, finding whatever that thing is that's going to liberate you to live the life that you actually want to live. Not the life that your parents think you should live, not the life that people say you're realistically going to live. Finding that thing for you to where you can live and experience life the way that you dream of doing. Set no limits. If that means you want to be chilling on courtside NBA games and driving a Bugatti to pull up, to high five LeBron, go after that. Find that thing that's going to get you there. But don't be realistic. Find your freedom. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Hey, man, let us know and let the listeners know if they need to get in contact with you. Where can they find you?
Yeah. Jabbar _investor instead of investor. I have 2 B's in my name, JABBAR _investor. I am semi-active on Instagram, Facebook, Jabbar Adesada, Bigger Pockets, Jabbar Adesada. Yeah, I need to put out more content.
Hey, we all do, right? Hey, listen, one of the things here at, Find Your Freedom is we don't have guests, right? We have friends. And how we kind of close the show, we close the show with this big boom. All right. And we like to do it in uniform. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to count down, 1, 2, 3, then we're going to say boom. And the objective here is to rock some speakers, blow some airs, and do what we have to do, man. So we got to bring the boom. Now you're military, so you should bring the boom harder and stronger than Omid and myself, man. So we counting on you. Can we count on you?
Yeah, I'm just going to disclosure. There's some librarians looking at me strangely. So
I love it. All right. They're going to look at you really strange after this. All right.
All right.
So on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom! Awesome. Look at here. I'm going to pause for a minute because there's some important things I want to mention about this episode. We got Jabbar here. He represents 2 things. Okay. 1, he's talking for all military individuals on things that you can do to sit here and make a better life for yourself. That's 1. The second thing is he is a young man, and he is talking to not just individuals that are 18, 19, or 21. He's also talking to you, regardless to your age, to let you know that if you have those 3 skills that he mentioned in our podcast, and I'm not going to mention them because you have to listen to them, you can do it. It doesn't matter. All right. But if you want to hear more and more episodes like this, then we need you to subscribe. We need you to sit here and write some questions down here. If you got some for Jabbar, we're going to bring this guy back on, answer any and all questions. Make sure that you share this with your friends, your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin. Email it to everyone in your Rolodex. All right. And with that being said, until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, talk to you soon.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.